Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Stash Report from Stash Project. Today is April 20th, 2020. I'll sit here while you make all your pothead jokes. I don't know. Got nothing else to do. You right there in the back. You got something else. Come on. Done? Okay, great. Okay. Alright, so anyway, guys, we have a few kit releases to talk about this week, and then one new not so much an announcement, but just a pre-order, which now has some actual pieces and parts attached to it to look at. So there is that. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So let's hop into that tease, which is the new B-Max new kit here. I guess we're just operating under new entirely at this point, but they teased this back when it was still B-Max, and this tease goes back, I think we're probably 2 years into development onto this project at this point, and that is the Peugeot 306 Maxi rally car. This one will have the SO Clarion livery from the 1996 Rally Monte Carlo, or Monte Carlo Rally, depending on how you want to look at it. I think this is technically going to be, what, a Group B car or a Group A car at that point. Group B, that died 13 years before that. But we finally have test shots of this project. So this is no longer, some clumps of modeling clay on a board or some rapid prototype 3D stuff. Legit plastic now. So you see, we're getting a body, and looks like we're getting a separate grill piece there for the Peugeot logo. It looks like, depending on which Peugeot 306 Maxi you look up, sometimes those were body color, sometimes they were chrome. I'm assuming the piece itself will be chromed, so a little bit of nice engineering touch there. And you can see it's going to be another curbside. Nothing too terribly surprising there. It's not a visible rear engine, so they're not going to throw an engine in this. Do get looks like a reasonable bottom part of the engine, although that'll be covered with a skid plate, so that's sort of 6 of one, half dozen the other. Builds off a platform interior, so that's all good there. You see, you get your seats in this, and your foot driver foot pedal boxes in the passenger rest box as well. I guess it's just a foot box. It's not really pedals on the passenger side, obviously. Separate door card. Just this parts runner layout here gives you your wheels, the front bumper, and the spare tire on that one up there. And then there's just a plethora of bits and bobs here. The steering wheel's on here. You've got things like the mirrors and the mirror faces, which kind of be odd that that's not chromed. Looks like shots and struts. Your antennas are on here, brake faces, the trailing arms for the suspension and things like that. And then you have this larger runner here, which has most of the roll caging, as well as the front transaxle, the rear transaxle, the instrument panel, which seems to be broken into 2 pieces, which, if nothing else, will make it easier to detail paint. You got the back end of the exhaust on there as well, and then some clear pieces here showing you a breakdown of how the window glass is going to go together, and then the other parts right there is the headlights, taillights, and, like I mentioned, that that skid plate that's going to run underneath the engine. With it being clear, kind of like a Tamiya kit, giving you the option to fully detail out the engine and then show it off, or just go ahead and paint that and then not really worry about painting the engine much at all. So there is that. On the kit release side of things, we do have one domestic kit release. It's the one we talked about last week, and it is the new bodied Salvino's JR Richard Petty 1986 Pontiac Grand Prix 2+2 Aero Coupe. So again, guts, engine, suspension, most of everything inside of the model kit is going to be from the 1/24 scale monogram kits from the 1980s, and then this has a newly tooled body, which obviously would have newly tooled glass pieces as well for the Aero Coupe, the Aero Sedan, as Monte Carlo is called, options there. So this will build you a variety of different 2+2s. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of decals available. There are some decals already out there. Now, whether or not those decals would fit perfectly on this would be a matter of conjecture, mainly because those decals would be sized to fit, the various resin body conversions that have been available over the last, 25 plus years since this kit was, or this excuse me, this car ran. Uh, so some of them may fit the body better than others. I know the power slide stuff is obviously sized to fit this car. Anything else, and you're going to be, your mileage may vary as to how well it'll fit. But I assume that there will be many more decals done for this because, again, it is a body style that. At this point, that'll be a vintage NASCAR that NASCAR builders have been looking for. So that's out there. And then we have a bunch of stuff from overseas. All of it is going to be reissue material, although some of it's a little older than others in terms of reissues. Over at Aoshima, first up, we got the movie Meccana new boxings of the Back to the Future DeLorean. So it is the first movie, the second movie, and the third movie. The second movie, the wheels do fold up. The third movie does come with white walls, as well as the railroad wheels and a little section of railroad track diorama. We always talk about that every time this kit gets reissued. So there's nothing new about any of this kit's, just a different boxing series. So they've gotten reissued once again. And then over on the actual sort of model car, tune model car thing, we got a bunch of stuff that was again just reissues this month, but they are the kits for this month. So first up, we have the 1982 Nissan Cedric and Brougham 280 four-door hardtop. These kits are essentially identical. There are just minor differences with interior trim, the grills, the rear taillights, and things like that. One body. All of the other things are done with separate pieces, so that's back out there. Reissue of the Toyota Celica 1600 GT. Probably not the better 1600 GT kit that's out there. I'd recommend the Hasegawa one over this one if you are looking to build one of these. Then you have the reissue of the 1991 Suzuki Cappuccino. This is one of those kits that was gone for quite a while, and now it's back in this series of kits that came. See, car number 40 is probably 2 years old at this point as far as the reissues go. But the Cappuccino really didn't. It was released back in the early 1990s as just a model kit, and then it got a few pieces added to it to be put into the initial D line. And the initial D one came out every now and then, but still not that often. And the actual just sort of factory stock Cappuccino didn't get seen very much. The big difference there is that the initial D kit didn't have factory stock rims in it. It had the rims from the comic book series. So again, just good to have this back out. It's a fun little model. And then we have two kits from the Tune model car line this week as well. One is this, the 886 Truno Sprinter TRD, what will be known as the NER 2 body style. With the over fenders, this is a curbside kit. Only the initial Ds and some of the factory stock kits have the engine, so know that going in when you buy that. And then the other one is this, which is the 2010 Hi-Ace boxy style VIP van. So those kits are all back out there for anybody who had been looking for one of those and could not find them. And then we have a few releases from Hasegawa as well. So the straight restocks are two Honda Civic kits. First up, you have the Honda Civic Vti Eti, so you can build like a base model Civic or a stripped out eco base model Civic. So that's out, and then it sort of corresponds with the release of this. Seems like these, ever since they brought these EG6 Civics back, the Civic car always has a race reissue. And this time it's the Idemitsu Motion Mugen car from the 1992 Japanese Touring Car Championship Series. So that kit is back out as well. And then we have a couple of the actual reissue kits for April. There's still two more on the list, but we're wrapping up Hasegawa's April stuff here. First up, you have this. It is the Jaguar Xjr-9 IMSA Sprint type. So this, again, replicates the non-endurance body style and rear wing for the Xjr-9 as it ran in IMSA Camel GT back in, I want to say this is 1989 or so. Probably should look that up before I said it. And now it's going to bother me, so I have to look it up while we're sitting here talking. So that kit has the Castrol livery in it, not the silk cut. It ran that Castrol livery here in the United States the entire IMSA season. The car in its sort of speedway endurance setup did win the 24 Hours of Daytona. This car, as it sits, ran the entire season, and it also won the final round at Del as far as the sprint race goes, and that was the 1988 season, not 1989. So that is back out there. Now, of interest, this kit does include, I believe, as I'm sitting here looking, no, it doesn't actually. They took it off this decal set as well, unless they're just blanking it out on the pictures. That's a possibility. We haven't got these in, our copies of these in yet, but these raced in, again, a series at IMSA that was called Camel GT Series, and the decals for both of these kits, because I'm going to talk about another one here in a second, have had the camel word uh, blanked off of the decal. Now it's just a dark blue decal that says GT. It is missing the actual word camel, which is incredibly annoying because several other IMSA reissues they've done here recently in the last 6 months have all had camel GT decals in them. And I don't know if that is a factor of, again, they're just trying not to show it, because a lot of times you see these vendors will Photoshop out cigarette livery advertising as a way to not attract attention to it, or they've blanked it out on the decals themselves. Again, until somebody gets one of these in, we won't know for sure. Did somebody just recently tell Hasegawa that Camel's a cigarette? That's the only thing I can think of. Why is it suddenly now it's a problem? But anyway, the other kit is this. It is the 1989 24 Hours of Daytona raced Toyota 88C. So this is their 88C kit in their in a IMSA GTP body style. I don't necessarily think there's too much in this that's different in terms of parts wise. Well, I've got the page open. Let me look at the parts runners here. It looks like there's a couple different side pieces to it. As far as the intakes and the exhaust ports on the sides. If you've got any of these Group C cars that Hasegawa did, you know that the side pods are sort of separate from the actual upper part of the body. There's no engine in any of these kits, but they sort of made the bottom, say, 3 feet of the car separate pieces so they could swap out different exhaust ports, different intakes, and things of that nature to keep, from having to tool whole new bodies up to do sprint versus endurance and IMSA versus Le Mans versus Japanese sports car prototype series. So this car itself didn't do particularly well in the race. It retired due to, I believe, transaxle issues. I don't know if they're going to mention here what. No, it doesn't mention where it finished because it didn't do, again, particularly well. Decals do everything on this kit as far as that goes. It's a white car, and all the stripes are decals, which not surprising, technically speaking, I guess. But that specific kit has not been out since the mid-1990s, so it's been a little while. I almost picked one up for pretty cheap on Yahoo Japan auctions, and then this kit was announced prior to me buying it, and I was like, whew, well, I just saved myself a little bit of money there, because, again, it would have been a situation where if the decals were shot, I would have had to redraw them, and we all know how well that works, and, so to spend an extra, looks like $10 or so to get fresh decals, very well worth the time and effort as far as I'm concerned. So that, guys, wraps up this week's video. So we still have a couple of kits out of Aoshima that are scheduled to still come out. We do have a couple of kits from Fujimi that are scheduled to come out. I've seen Fujimi posting on Twitter that they have shipped the kits, so they've been produced. They are going to come out this month. They just are not in yet. And then we have 2 or 3 kits out of Hasegawa this month that have not come in, and the Tamiya kit for this month has not come in yet either, but we still have a few days left. Now, the big thing to consider next week is that on Wednesday, which I believe is the 30th, the last day of the month, correct? No, it's 29th. All right, so remember, the end of April is the beginning of what is known as Golden Week in Japan. That is the week-long festival of public holidays. Most people would have gotten the week off. Now, of course, Japan under a state of emergency right now, so many people have time off that they weren't planning on. And a lot of the travel that would have been going on for Golden Week obviously is restricted. But that being said, the country is still going to shut down for its public holidays. So we will have a show next week on the 27th, I guess it would technically be. But the next show, the beginning of May, we'll see whether or not we do something for that, just based on what kits would come in those first 3 days, the first 3 days of the week, the last 3 days of April, because then Japan will be effectively closed till the first Monday of May. We'll still do a we'll still do a May compilation video, of course, so there will be a video for you at the beginning of May. It's gonna be May, but it's a question of whether or not we'll have an actual show that week, because we don't expect any domestic releases. There will be nothing of import anywhere, really, so just hang in there, and we'll figure it out as on the fly, as it were. So anyway, guys, that wraps up this video. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys had a great weekend, and we'll see you guys on the other side.